thank you for coming. Fred McFeely Rogers was born March 20th, 1928, and died February 27th, 2003. He is known as a television personality whose passion and love for children was evident in all that he did. All research and interviews confirm that Fred Rogers, the person, was just as wholesome as the man he portrayed on television. He was awarded the Peabody Award, the Lifetime Achievement Award. He is a member of the Hollywood Walk of Fame and the Television Hall of Fame. He received the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He even had a U.S. postage stamp made in his honor. His show, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, won over 30 Emmys. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was in production from 1968 until 2001. In 1997, the show became the longest-running children's television series, a record held until 2003, when it was surpassed by Sesame Street. The 30-minute program was known for its intentional slow pace, routines such as Mr. Rogers changing into a sweater and tennis shoes, featured guests, especially musical guests, Picture Picture, where we learned not how things were made, but how people made things, the neighborhood of make-believe, the trolley that escorted us there, and of course, the music. Fred wrote all of the songs you hear on the show, over 200 of them, including 13 operas. He said of himself, "It seems that music has always been at the root of who I am and what I do. Some people might be surprised to know that first and foremost, I consider myself a musician." That is my focus tonight, Fred Rogers, the musician, and the music he composed for his show, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. My research on this topic began in 2007, while I was pursuing a master's degree in collaborative piano at SFA. The class was Ron Anderson's music bibliography, the toughest class I ever completed, and I got an A. The assignment was to create an annotated bibliography over several music topics, one of which was an American composer. I chose Fred Rogers. After exhausting all resources available to me through the SFA library, I took a trip to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania the summer after I graduated in 2008, where I was allowed to work in the offices of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and was granted access to all of his music. In addition to viewing all of his music, I also read every script in the archives. I talked with David Newell, who played Mr. McFeely, and conducted 2 phone interviews with Mrs. Rogers. At the culmination of my research, I presented a lecture recital in February of 2009 at SFA, where I was teaching theory and oral skills. Fast forward almost 20 years, and I still love the music of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Last summer, I arranged 9 of his songs, and you will hear those arrangements tonight. When I arrange a song, I copy the melody from a source, and then I create the rest. I have spent many hours listening to these songs as recorded by Fred Rogers and the pianist for the show, Johnny Costa. While not transcriptions, my oral skills are not that good. These arrangements were certainly inspired by the sounds I heard in the recordings and remembered for the show. I did not, however, arrange the theme song. While researching the music of Fred Rogers at his office in Pittsburgh, I was brought the music box to peruse. It was a box of music that Johnny Costa used to play from for the show. In it, handwritten in pencil, I found Johnny Costa's arrangement of Won't You Be My Neighbor. This song opened every episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I'd like to play it for you now. As I mentioned previously, the 900-plus episodes of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood began in 1968 and ran until 2001. It continued to air on PBS until it was removed from the daily syndicated schedule in August of 2008. When I heard that the show was being pulled from the broadcast, I wrote an article that ran in the Daily Sentinel in defense of keeping his show on the air. In it, I stated, "Certainly, Fred Rogers deserves some of the credit for whom I have become. I am an adult who loves learning. I am a musician who loves sharing music with others. And I am a mother who tells her children that I like them just the way that they are." In this article, I also quoted the lyrics from Fred's song, "Did You Know?" Here is "Did You Know?" Today, March 20th, 2026, would have been Fred's 98th birthday. Sadly, he died at age 74 in 2003 from stomach cancer. Fred wrote a birthday song, and it seems fitting to sing it in his honor. Happy birthday, dear neighbor, we sing to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. I'd like to share a little bit about Fred Rogers as a composer. Fred Rogers was first a musician, a composer. After spending his freshman year at Dartmouth studying Romance languages, he transferred to Rollins College, where he was a music composition major. When he first moved there, the group of students from Rollins sent to greet him included a piano major, Joanne Bird, who later became Mrs. Rogers. Joanne was an accomplished classical pianist. She enjoyed a lifetime of performing as a piano duo with her friend from college, Janine Morrison. Fred was a pianist himself. He started playing the piano by ear before he was 5, At age 10, his grandmother agreed to buy him his very own piano. He took a trolley to the Steinway store and spent several hours playing every piano in the store. He picked out a Steinway Model D, the same model I'm playing tonight, and his grandmother purchased it for him. Fred moved that piano with him throughout his life. Growing up, Fred would play show tunes and opera arias, all from memory, after family trips to New York City. In college, Fred often played songs of the day for his friends. He not only used the piano to compose, but also ended each day's filming for Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood by going to the piano and playing the same song every day. It was how he signaled to the crew and staff that taping was finished for the day. Mrs. Rogers told me in a phone interview that the song was how RCA ended their program. I'm not aware of the song's title, but here is a recording of Fred playing it.
We did it. Can you believe it? Woo, mercy.
Fred was blessed with an affluent, supportive family. When he showed promise as a songwriter in his late teens, his parents took him to meet composer Jack Lawrence. In 1939, Jack Lawrence wrote the lyrics to the song All or Nothing at All, which was sung by Frank Sinatra, and the lyrics to the song Tenderly, made famous by Rosemary Clooney in 1946. He was also the lyricist and performer for Never Smile at a Crocodile for Disney's Peter Pan in 1953. In July of 2008, less than a year before Jack's death in March 2009, I emailed him about his relationship with Fred Rogers. Here's what he had to say. Fred Rogers was a naive and shy teenager when he first came to visit me with his mother. This meeting had been arranged through a mutual friend, Morton DaCosta, who ran a small summer theater in the Pittsburgh area where the Rogers lived. Mrs. Rogers was very gracious and appreciative that I was willing to listen to Fred's songs. I believed Fred was 15 or 17, and I don't recall whether he had a music teacher at this time or was simply creating on his own. He explained that he was studying popular songs of the day and trying to emulate their construction. Though his words were short and musically and lyrically awkward, they showed effort and originality. After we had gone through most of his repertoire, I told him he was on the right track. I pointed out slight changes in both words and music that were instant improvements. Also, I encouraged him to write a barrel full of songs, that he would improve as he proceeded, and I suggested that he take some music courses. He said that he planned to make songwriting his career. I truly can't remember, but I think we had one or two additional meetings, and I was pleased to notice his improvements. He seemed to be developing his own original style. They were not love songs he was writing, but directed more towards children. I was pleased to learn that when he went to college, it was an institution that specialized in all aspects of music. How fortunate for Fred that he had parents who encouraged and supported him in his dream, and how wonderfully lucky he was to find his special niche. He mastered the art of writing songs that appealed to youngsters and actually taught them proper behavior in their formative years. My naive little friend, Fred Rogers, followed his dream and became a legend. Jack Lawrence. Music was essential to Fred Rogers. He was quoted as saying, "Doing puppets or playing the piano or making up songs isn't for everybody, but it's like drinking water or breathing fresh air for me. Neighborhood would certainly be different if I weren't in it, and it would be fake if it didn't have a large musical component." It has been said that Fred wrote simple melodies which Johnny Costa, the show's pianist, brought to life with his wonderful jazz harmonies. Johnny was a great jazz pianist. In fact, once he was playing Art Tatum's music at a venue. When Tatum arrived, he heard Johnny playing and said, "How nice of you to have my music playing." Tatum believed they were playing one of his recordings. That's how good Johnny was. Fred believed in always offering the best, so it's not surprising that he would hire the best pianist he could for the show. Johnny accepted the job because the salary of $5,000 was exactly what he needed to pay his son's college tuition that year. Johnny once said, "What we do isn't simple. Fred doesn't write simple tunes, and the jazz arrangements I do are very sophisticated too. Fred always says if it's for the children, it has to be the best we can give." Johnny Costa earned degrees in both music composition and education from Carnegie Mellon University, along with Joe Negri, who played Handyman Negri on the show. In my defense of Fred Rogers as a gifted composer, I do not intend to diminish the talent or contribution of Johnny Costa. He was nothing short of miraculous at the piano. When Johnny underscored the show, including the video segments, he was a mastermind at weaving Fred's familiar melodies together with his own musical ideas. He recorded all of that live. It was all live. That was all him, all his musical ideas. Yes, he collaborated with Fred on the songs and operas. I want to play for you a recording of just what he could do with one of Fred's songs. In this recording, he establishes the song in such a way that you can almost sing along, and then he cuts loose as only he could. He was remarkable. To defend my position of Fred being a master at both melody and harmony, it is important to look at the music he wrote before his collaboration with Johnny Costa. In 1954, remember Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood began in '68. Fred was a program manager for WQED under the leadership of General Manager Dorothy Daniel. There he worked with Joe C. Carey to create a children's show, The Children's Corner. The night before the station was to go on air, Mrs. Daniel gave a dinner party for the staff, board members, and supporters. At each place setting was a small gift. At Fred's spot, she placed a small tiger puppet. Fred named the puppet Daniel after Dorothy Daniel. The very next day, Fred used the puppet in the show, having Daniel pop out of a clock and announce the time. It was also for this show that Fred created King Friday the 13th, who celebrates his birthday every Friday the 13th so that children were not afraid of that day. And X the Owl. For this show, The Children's Corner, Fred played organ as Josie sang. In order to transition from the organ to puppetry without the wood floors squeaking, Fred bought a pair of rubber-soled sneakers. The iconic navy sneakers started out as a practical solution. In the songs written for the Children's Corner, Josie Carey wrote the lyrics, and Fred wrote the music, the melody, and the harmony. The next two songs I will play for you, I have not arranged. I want you to hear them exactly as Fred wrote and published them. First, in A Smile's the Style, Fred harmonizes the melody so that the melody pitches are often a note in the extension of the chord rather than one of the triad. The very first note of the melody is the 13th of a dominant 13th chord. That means it's fancy. There are also melody notes outside of the key signature, such as a raised fourth scale degree. Although written in 1956, I think hearing this song will remind you of the old standards from the 30s and 40s many of us love. A Smile's the Style. Carey and Rogers co-wrote Good Morning God in 1955, the same year Fred enrolled in classes at the Pittsburgh Theological Seminary. He took classes while working on the Children's Corner and graduated 8 years later with a Master of Divinity. In 1962, Fred was ordained as a minister by the Presbyterian Church. To be exact, he was ordained as a minister with his television show being his ministry. And that is how he saw it. He saw the distance between him and his television neighbor as holy ground. Good Morning God incorporates melody notes as extended chord members, just like in the song I just played for you. I believe the harmonies of this song are more advanced than expected for a song for a children's show. The harmonies of Good Morning God include a secondary dominant chord, the 5/7 of 2, which is not altogether unusual, but the half-diminished 2 chord is. In rounded binary form, AABA, the B section is made up of a 2-5-1 of 4 and a 2-5-1 of 5. This progression, 2-5-1, and secondary functioning 2-5-1s can be found in most of Fred's compositions, both before and after his collaboration with Johnny Costa. It is used extensively in the jazz standards that would have been popular in the first 20 years of Fred's life. Here is Good Morning, God. I believe Fred was gifted at spotting talent and incorporating each person's strengths into his work. In the theme song for the Children's Corner, copyrighted first in 1958, Josie Carey wrote about a cat dressed in tulle, an owl in a tree, and a tiger in a clock. Later, all of these characters would become a part of the neighborhood of make-believe on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. One of my favorite of Fred's songs was from his years collaborating with Josie Carey. She wrote the lyrics for Then Your Heart is Full of Love, and Fred wrote the music. It appeared on the Children's Corner as Josie sang it as a duet with Daniel Striped Tiger. The song was used in several episodes of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood from 1968 until 1996, but for some reason it wasn't copyrighted until 1984. As I arranged each song you will hear tonight, I sent recordings to my friend Angela Webster and my daughter Emma Ward. They are two of my biggest cheerleaders. When Emma heard my arrangement of this song, she texted me, "It sounds like what dreaming feels like." I hope you enjoy it as well. As a composer, Fred often used text painting to emphasize the lyrics. Text painting is a compositional technique where the music illustrates the literal meaning of the text. An example would be when Garth Brooks sings about friends in low places, and the word low is on a low note. Handel uses this technique to illustrate the crooked straight in every valley shall be exalted from Messiah. One song that I believe illustrates Fred's use of text painting is When the Day Turns into Night. In this song, he employs a whole tone scale to color the night. The statement, when the day, is bright and in C major, depicting the day. When it turns into night, the melody shifts to the whole tone scale a tritone away from the initial statement. A tritone. It's exactly halfway in between the middle of a chromatic scale. A tritone is as far away as one key can be from another, just as the day is from the night. The B section of this song is chromatic and an ideal example of Fred's advanced understanding of both melody and harmony. In this song, the melody alone is advanced and dictates the rich harmonic underpinning. Fred's compositional style is characterized by text painting such as the whole tone scale and tritone usage I just demonstrated. He also was fond of the 2-5-1 harmonies that I played earlier. His harmonic language was much more like the songs of his youth than of the popular songs of the era in which he was composing. But the lyrics were the most important. It was always about the message. The music had to be good, the best, but it always served the message. This is why I've included lyrics for all of the songs tonight. I want to honor Fred's message and allow you to fully experience his songs. In his song, "You Are Special," the phrase links are set to emphasize the lyrics so that the message is exactly as Fred wanted it to be understood. Set in 6/8 time, the most important words are placed on the big beats, even when it makes the phrase feel irregular. I'm going to read those lyrics in time for you so that you can feel that. You are my friend, you are special. You are my friend, you're special to me. You are the only one like you, my friend, I like you. Here is "You Are Special." Mr. Rogers was an advocate for children and for the positive element television could be in their lives. In fact, public funding for PBS is due not only to Fred Rogers' advocacy, but specifically it is due in part to the lyrics of one of his songs. What do you do with the mad that you feel? Only 1 year after the 1968 debut of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, Fred was selected to testify before Congress on behalf of educational television. It is still considered one of the most powerful pieces of testimony ever offered before Congress and has been studied by both academics and marketers. It was May 1st, 1969. The entire speech is 6 minutes long, but I wanted to show just a portion of it to you, where Fred uses the lyrics of his song to win funding for PBS.
Could I tell you the words of one of the songs which I feel is very important?
Yes.
This has to do with that good feeling of control, which I feel that children need to know is there. And it starts out, what do you do with the mad that you feel? And that first line came straight from a child. I work with children, doing puppets in very personal communication with small groups. What do you do with the mad that you feel? When you feel so mad you could bite. When the whole wide world seems oh so wrong, and nothing you do seems very right. What do you do? Do you punch a bag? Do you pound some clay or some dough? Do you round up friends for a game of tag or see how fast you go? It's great to be able to stop when you've planned a thing that's wrong and be able to do something else instead and think this song. I can stop when I want to, can stop when I wish, can stop, stop, stop anytime. And what a good feeling to feel like this and know that the feeling is really mine. Know that there's something deep inside that helps us become what we can. For a girl can be someday a lady, and a boy can be someday a man.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful. Looks like you just earned the $20 million.
my favorite memories from watching the show is a visit from a little boy in a wheelchair. His name was Jeff Erlanger. He visited Fred when he was 5 years old, just before having spinal fusion surgery. Together, he and Fred sang "It's You I Like" on the show, with Fred changing the words "not your toys" to "not your fancy chair." Years later, when Fred was inducted into the Television Hall of Fame, Jeff surprised him at the awards as an adult. I'd like to share that moment with you.
Please welcome Jeffrey Erlanger.
It is hard. I'm so glad to see you. Oh, thank you for coming. My pleasure. Oh. What a surprise.
It's an honor to be here tonight, to be part of your this proud moment. You know, when you tell people that it's you I like, we know that you really mean it. And tonight, I want to let you know that on behalf of millions of children and grown-ups, it is you that I like.
"It's You I Like" is also one of my favorite messages Fred communicated. As a pianist, I have often believed that no one would like me, need me, want to be my friend if I weren't able to play the piano for them. It is a message we all need to hear. It's you I like. Another of Fred's messages that I love is that hard work pays off. A Fred Rogers quote is, "What makes the difference between wishing and realizing our wishes? Lots of things, of course, But the main one, I think, is whether we link our wishes to our active work. It may take months or years, but it's far more likely to happen when we care so much that we'll work as hard as we can to make it happen. And when we're working toward the realization of our wishes, some of our greatest strengths come from the encouragement of people who care about us. His song, "You've Got to Do It," is about the proud feeling you have from accomplishing a task you've worked for. These words inspired me to complete this recital. The idea to do another recital almost 20 years after the last one was due in part to the encouragement of my friend Samantha Inman, who simply asked, "What's stopping you?" That message is one I think Fred would have supported. Here is his song, "You've Got to Do It." I arranged 9 songs by Fred Rogers last summer. I organized my thoughts and put the finishing touches on the recital during Christmas break. I thought everything was ready. Then in January, this song, "Are You Brave?" just wouldn't leave my mind. So I sat down one evening to arrange the song and nothing came to me. Then the next morning at 4:35 a.m., the song, which is in 4/4, began playing in my head as a jazz waltz. That was the inspiration I needed. It was only used in 2 of the 900-plus episodes of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, so I was surprised that it was one that I focused on. As I read the lyrics, I thought about people that I consider brave, those going through medical treatments, those navigating life after losing a loved one. And on a lighter note, all of us living the life we dreamed of, one brave step at a time. Long before Gary Chapman wrote his book about the 5 love languages, Fred Rogers taught us that there are many ways to say, I love you. This is the first one of Fred's songs that I arranged last summer. It is still my favorite of the arrangements that I did. Showing up for a person giving a recital is a way to say, I love you. Thank you for supporting me with your presence tonight. I would be remiss if I ended this recital without telling you what I know Fred would want you to know. It's the message Fred's grandfather shared with him, that you are special. You make this day a special day by just your being you. There's no one else in the world exactly like you, and people can like you exactly as you are. There's a reception in our Welcome Center, and all of my Fred Rogers memorabilia is laid out for you to enjoy, so please go look at it. Thank you for coming.